In this episode, we're going to take a much deeper look at what it truly means to hold service providers accountable for security. Evaluating a provider before signing a contract is only the first step. Real risk management continues long after onboarding, because providers become extensions of your operational environment. If they process your data, support your infrastructure, or connect to your systems, their weaknesses can become your weaknesses. Accountability ensures that security commitments are not vague promises, but enforceable obligations backed by technical safeguards and regular verification. Without accountability, trust becomes assumption, and assumption is not a security strategy. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our Course Companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Accountability begins with clarity. Both your organization and the provider must understand who is responsible for what. In complex service relationships, it is easy for responsibilities to blur. A provider might assume you are managing certain controls, while your team assumes the provider is handling them. These gaps can leave important protections unimplemented. Clear definition of responsibilities prevents this drift. Accountability is not about assigning blame ahead of time. It is about ensuring there are no unclaimed responsibilities where risk can quietly grow. Contracts are the formal backbone of accountability. A contract defines the expectations that govern the relationship, including security requirements. From a risk perspective, security clauses should specify how data must be protected, how access must be controlled, and how incidents must be handled. Vague language, such as following industry best practices, is rarely sufficient on its own. More precise language establishes measurable obligations. For example, specifying encryption requirements, access control standards, or define notification timelines reduces ambiguity. Clear contractual expectations make it easier to assess compliance and respond when obligations are not met. Service Level Agreements, SLA, after the first mention, add measurable performance criteria to contractual commitments. While SLA often focus on availability and uptime, they can also include security-related expectations. These might involve defined timeframes for vulnerability remediation, patch deployment, or incident response. When expectations are measurable, performance can be tracked objectively. If a provider repeatedly fails to meet defined thresholds, that pattern becomes visible. Measurable accountability encourages consistency and reduces reliance on informal assurances. Security addenda or data protection agreements often supplement primary contracts. These documents can define more detailed obligations around how specific categories of data must be handled. For example, they may outline requirements for encryption, retention, access restrictions, and secure disposal. These focused agreements ensure that data protection is not an afterthought. They reinforce the idea that security is a shared operational priority, not just a compliance checkbox. Including such provisions demonstrates that the organization treats provider risk seriously. Technical controls translate contractual language into enforceable reality. For instance, if a contract requires restricted access, your systems should enforce least privilege access for provider accounts. Role-based access ensures that providers only interact with the systems and data necessary for their tasks. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, after the first mention, can be required for provider identities to strengthen authentication. Network segmentation can restrict provider access to defined zones rather than granting broad connectivity. These controls reduce the damage that could occur if provider credentials are compromised or misused. Monitoring complements technical restrictions by creating visibility into provider activity. Logging provider access and reviewing unusual patterns can reveal potential issues early. For example, unexpected login attempts, access outside of agreed windows, or large data transfers may warrant investigation. Monitoring does not imply distrust. It reinforces transparency and helps detect both malicious and accidental missteps. When monitoring aligns with contractual expectations, accountability becomes both proactive and evidence-based. Ongoing assurance reviews are the mechanism that keeps accountability current. Providers change over time. They adopt new technologies, reorganize teams, or modify infrastructure. Periodic reviews confirm that agreed security standards remain in place. These reviews may include updated questionnaires, examination of independent audit reports, or discussions about recent incidents and improvements. The purpose is not to burden providers unnecessarily. It is to ensure that the original risk assessment remains valid. Continuous oversight recognizes that security posture is dynamic rather than static. Audit rights within contracts support deeper verification when needed. If risk increases or concerns arise, audit rights allow your organization to request additional evidence or conduct focused assessments. These rights should be exercised responsibly and in alignment with contractual terms. The presence of audit rights alone often encourages consistent compliance. Providers know that their controls may be reviewed, which reinforces accountability. Audit mechanisms create a formal path for verification rather than relying solely on trust. Incident response coordination is another area where accountability must be explicit. Contracts should define how incidents affecting shared systems or data will be communicated and managed. Clear timelines for notification ensure that your organization can respond promptly. Defined communication channels reduce confusion during high-pressure situations. Coordination plans clarify who leads investigation efforts, how information is shared, and how remediation steps are tracked. When responsibilities are predetermined, response becomes structured instead of chaotic. Escalation pathways ensure that unresolved issues do not linger indefinitely. If assurance reviews uncover weaknesses or SLA targets are missed, there should be defined procedures for addressing them. Escalation may involve management discussions, corrective action plans, or contractual remedies. This structured progression encourages timely resolution. It also demonstrates that security commitments carry consequences. Accountability without enforcement mechanisms can weaken over time as unresolved concerns accumulate. Documentation binds all these elements together. Records of contracts, amendments, reviews, findings, and corrective actions create a transparent trail. Documentation supports regulatory compliance and internal governance. It also helps leadership evaluate provider performance objectively. When accountability measures are well documented, risk decisions are easier to justify and explain. Documentation transforms oversight from informal oversight into structured governance. Shared responsibility remains central throughout the relationship. Even when providers accept defined obligations, your organization retains ultimate responsibility for protecting its data and maintaining resilience. Accountability does not transfer risk entirely to the provider. It creates defined boundaries of responsibility. Clear communication and collaboration foster mutual understanding. When both parties recognize their roles clearly, cooperation improves and blind spots decrease. Cultural alignment also influences accountability effectiveness. Providers that view security as a strategic priority are more likely to meet and exceed contractual expectations. During ongoing reviews, observing responsiveness, transparency, and proactive improvement efforts offers insight into this culture. Technical compliance is necessary, but cultural commitment strengthens long-term reliability. Providers that engage openly in improvement discussions tend to build stronger partnerships. In conclusion, enforcing provider accountability requires an integrated approach that combines formal agreements, technical enforcement, and continuous oversight. Contracts establish clear obligations, SLA provide measurable expectations, and technical controls ensure operational boundaries. Ongoing assurance reviews, audit rights, and escalation pathways maintain accountability over time. Documentation supports transparency and governance. Together, these elements transform provider relationships into structured partnerships grounded in measurable security commitments. When accountability is embedded into both legal frameworks and daily operations, organizations reduce third-party risk and strengthen resilience across their extended ecosystem.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.